I shouldn't have been there. Not in that bar. Not in that neighborhood. Not sitting across from a woman like her. But I was. And it changed everything. She walked in like she owned the world. Silk dress. Diamond earrings that could blind a man. The kind of presence that made conversations stop mid-sentence. Everyone looked. Even the bartender dropped a bottle. I tried not to stare. I failed. She sat 2 stools down. Ordered something I couldn't pronounce. Her voice? Velvet and poison. And for some reason, God knows why, she turned to me and smiled. "You're not from around here, are you?" I shook my head. "No, ma'am. Just finished my shift down at the garage." Her smile deepened. "Ma'am? What are you, 25 going on 50? I laughed. Nervous. Unsure. She leaned closer. "I'm Lauren." "Jake," I said, wiping oil off my hands with a napkin. I hadn't even showered. Just wanted a beer before bed. But that night, sleep never came. We talked. She asked about my life, my dead-end job, my broken truck, my dog. And she told me nothing. Just that she was married to a businessman. Said it like it was a curse. When she touched my hand, I felt it in my spine. "This marriage," she said, her voice dropping, "it's a cage made of gold." I didn't know what to say. So I didn't. I just listened. An hour later, I walked her to her car. Black Mercedes. Custom plates. She kissed me on the cheek. Said, "Maybe I'll see you again." And I did. Again. And again. At first, it was coffee. Then dinners. Then nights. Then mornings. I told myself it was nothing serious. That she was just lonely. That I was just a distraction. But I was lying. To myself most of all. Because the truth? I was falling for her. Falling for a woman who wore a different diamond every day. Who lived in a mansion I couldn't even afford to park near. A woman who belonged to someone else. A man worth millions. A man who would destroy me if he ever found out. She didn't tell me her husband's name. Not at first. Just said he was older, powerful, and barely home. That he spent more time in conference rooms and on private jets than in their bed. I believed her because I wanted to. Because it felt better than asking hard questions. Because every time I saw her, it felt like gravity was pulling me somewhere dangerous and I didn't want to fight it. We met in secret. Motels off the interstate, parked cars in the dark, even once behind the auto shop where I worked. I'd watch her step out of her sleek black car, sunglasses on, hair pulled back tight, like a character in a movie. And I'd be there, hands still dirty, shirt smelling like grease and gasoline. 2 different worlds. But when she touched me, none of that mattered. In those moments, we were just 2 people aching for something real. She started opening up more, slowly peeling back the layers. Told me her husband's name was Charles Whitmore. That hit me like a brick to the chest. I'd heard that name. Everyone had. Real estate mogul. Philanthropist. Hosted black-tie galas with senators and celebrities. Worth north of $80 million, according to the last magazine article I read. And his wife, the woman I was holding at night, was the trophy everyone envied. "I was 22 when I met him," she said once, lying next to me, her head on my chest. "He was 46. Took me shopping in Paris on our second date. Flew me to Santorini for my birthday. I didn't even know how to spell Santorini. I wanted to ask her why she married him. I didn't. She told me anyway. My mother called it the opportunity of a lifetime. Said men like Charles don't come around twice. And I wanted to believe love could look like money. That comfort could feel like passion. But it doesn't. Not really. It's cold. It's quiet. You learn to wear a smile like jewelry, something pretty and fake. I held her tighter. But I also started watching my back. I knew I was playing with fire. That this couldn't last. That one wrong move and I'd be on the front page of the kind of newspapers that never printed my name before. But I couldn't stop. Not when she looked at me like I was the only man who'd ever made her feel seen. Not when she whispered my name like a secret worth keeping. Still, something in me knew it was only a matter of time before the cracks started to show. And they did. One morning, she showed up at my place shaking. No makeup. Hair a mess. Eyes wide and bloodshot. "He knows," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "What do you mean he knows?" "I found a camera. In the guest room. He's been watching. Listening. I don't know how long. I don't know how much he saw." My stomach dropped. "What happens now?" She looked at me like she'd already been buried. "He doesn't get angry, Jake. He gets even." That day, everything shifted. It was no longer a secret affair tucked neatly into the shadows. It became a ticking time bomb. Lauren was a different woman now. The confidence she once wore like armor had cracked. She clung to me with trembling hands, her eyes darting around like every shadow might hold a threat. I tried to calm her, told her she could stay with me, that we'd figure it out. But even as I said it, I knew how foolish it sounded. This wasn't some jealous boyfriend we were dealing with. This was Charles Whitmore, a man who had the money, the power, and the motivation to ruin lives without breaking a sweat. Lauren didn't sleep that night. She paced my apartment until sunrise, chain-smoking cigarettes from a pack she pulled out of her purse, something I'd never seen her do before. At one point, I tried to take her hand and she jerked away like she was afraid I'd vanish if she let herself feel anything. "You don't understand what he's capable of," she said. "You think he's just some rich guy in a suit? No. Charles has people. Lawyers, private investigators, friends in places that make things disappear, people, money, scandals. He doesn't lose. Ever." I asked her why she stayed so long. If she was so scared, why hadn't she left years ago? Her answer haunted me. "Because I signed everything away. My life, my freedom, even my name. The prenup is ironclad. If I leave him, I get nothing. And if he can prove I cheated, he'll bury me. Publicly. Legally. Financially. I'll be humiliated, discarded, and alone. And he'll make sure everyone watches." I wanted to say that I didn't care. That she could have my couch, my bed, my everything. That we could start over somewhere far from here, somewhere warm, quiet, invisible. But part of me knew how naive that was. Love doesn't erase a past like hers. It doesn't protect you from a man like him. Especially when he's watching. Especially when he already knows. The next week was a blur of anxiety. Lauren went home, said she had to face him, to keep up appearances, to play her part until she could figure something out. I hated it, hated the thought of her in that cold marble mansion with that man watching her every move. She promised to call, to keep me updated, but days passed without a word. Every hour felt like a noose tightening. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. My boss noticed, asked if I was on something. I wasn't unless Heartbreak counted. Then, one night, she called. Her voice was hollow, broken. "He wants to meet you," she said. I froze. "What? Why?" "He said if I don't bring you to him, he'll go to you. And you don't want that." "What the hell does he want from me?" She hesitated. "He says he wants to talk." Just talk. But nothing about Charles Whitmore sounded like a man who just wanted to talk. Still, what choice did I have? I agreed. And 3 days later, I walked into a room that smelled like leather, power, and quiet threats to face the man whose wife I had taken to bed. The house was even more intimidating up close. I'd seen pictures of estates like this in magazines, the kind that feature drone shots of marble driveways and wine cellars bigger than my entire apartment building. But standing there, in front of the towering iron gates that opened without a word, I felt like I was being swallowed by another world, one that didn't belong to me and never would. 2 men in suits greeted me, not a smile between them. No introductions. Just a silent nod and a gesture to follow. Every step I took down those pristine hallways echoed like a countdown. They led me to a study, dark wood paneling, walls lined with books that looked untouched, a fireplace crackling even though it was warm outside. And there he was. Charles Whitmore. Sitting behind a mahogany desk, fingers steepled, eyes sharp enough to dissect me with a glance. He didn't rise. Didn't offer a handshake. He just looked me over like I was a stray dog that had wandered into his dining room. "So," he said finally, his voice smooth but heavy with restrained fury. "You're the mechanic." I said nothing. He smirked. "Don't worry. I'm not going to kill you. That would be far too easy and not nearly satisfying enough." Still, I didn't move. Didn't speak. My palms were sweating, but I didn't want to give him the satisfaction of seeing me flinch. "I suppose I should thank you," he continued. "You've proven something I suspected for years, that loyalty in marriage is a myth. A convenient story we tell ourselves to sleep better at night." I swallowed hard. "If you knew she was unhappy, why keep her?" He laughed. Not a warm laugh. A cold, bitter sound. Because unhappy wives are predictable. They're easy to control. They trade emotion for comfort, passion for pearls. But you were a variable I didn't account for. You made her believe in something stupid. Love, I think." My jaw clenched. I wanted to hit him. But I also wanted to survive the next 5 minutes. Then his tone shifted, calm giving way to menace. "Here's what's going to happen. You're going to walk out of this house and never see Lauren again. Not a text. Not a call. Not a glance. If you do, I'll make sure every inch of your miserable life burns down. Starting with that sad little garage you call a career. You can't control her," I said, my voice low, shaking. His eyes narrowed. "Of course I can. I own her. Her car, her clothes, her goddamn name. You think she'll choose you? A man who can't afford dinner at one of the restaurants I own? She'll crawl back. Because in the end, she knows what it costs to leave me. And that was the worst part. I believed him. I left that house with my hands in fists and my heart in pieces. I didn't call her. I didn't go to her. I waited. 2 days later, she showed up at my apartment. Her face was swollen, one eye bruised, her wrist wrapped in gauze. "I tried to leave," she whispered, "and I realized we weren't in love anymore. We were in war." She collapsed into my arms like a broken thing, shaking, crying, apologizing for everything and nothing at once. I held her close, ran my fingers through her hair, whispered that she was safe now, though I didn't believe it, not for a second. The bruise on her cheek told me more than any words could. Charles had snapped. Whatever control he thought he had was slipping, and now he was lashing out like a wounded animal. Lauren tried to downplay it, said it was the first time. I didn't press her. I didn't need to. I'd seen enough busted lips and frightened eyes in my life to know when someone was hiding years of quiet violence. She stayed with me that night, curled against my chest like she was afraid I'd vanish if she let go. We didn't speak much. We didn't have to. In the silence between us, there was pain, love, fear, and something else. Resolve. I knew we couldn't keep going like this. Sneaking around, running from shadows, waiting for Charles to pull the trigger. We needed a plan. Not just to escape him, but to survive him. The next morning, I made coffee and laid everything out. "We can go," I said. "Tonight. I've got a cousin in Arizona. Nobody knows him. He's got land, space. It's not much, but it's enough." She looked at me, eyes wide and wet. "You'd give up everything for me?" I nodded. "I'd rather be broke and alive with you than stay here waiting to be destroyed." But she shook her head, slowly. "If we run, he wins. He'll hunt us. He'll ruin you. You think he won't send people after us? That he won't use every resource he has to drag me back and crush you just for touching me? So what then?" I asked. "We stay and let him own us?" "No," she said quietly. "We fight him, but smart, legally, quietly, from the inside." It sounded insane, but she wasn't wrong. Running would only buy us time and not much of it. Charles had reach, influence, but he also had weaknesses, secrets. Lauren had lived in his world long enough to know where the cracks were. And if we could expose even one of them, we might stand a chance. She started gathering evidence. Emails, recordings, financial records, things she'd ignored for years but now saw with new eyes. She found shell companies, bribes, even blackmail. And in all of it, a pattern. Charles wasn't just rich, he was dirty. And that meant he was vulnerable. We contacted a lawyer, someone she trusted from before her marriage. He agreed to help quietly off the books. Said it was risky but not impossible. "You get me hard proof," he told her. "And I can get you out with more than your skin." For the first time in weeks we felt hope. A fragile, flickering thing. But it was enough. Until we made a mistake. One night I was followed leaving work. A black car, tinted windows. Didn't try to hide it. Just stayed a few car lengths behind me the whole way home. The next morning, Lauren's phone was gone. Taken from the nightstand while we slept. No break-in, no mess. Just gone. And then the package arrived. No return address. Inside photos. Of me. Of Lauren. Of us. Together. In bed. In my apartment. In the garage. And a single note. "You're already dead. You just don't know it yet." The fear that settled over us after that package wasn't the loud, panicked kind. It was quiet, heavy, like a weight pressing down on our lungs. Every sound felt sharper. Every shadow suspicious. Lauren stopped sleeping. She'd sit by the window for hours, just watching the street, gripping a kitchen knife like it was the only thing standing between us and whatever hell Charles had planned. I tried to reassure her, told her we were still safe, that the lawyer was building a case, that the worst was behind us. But I didn't believe my own words. Not anymore. The pictures weren't just a threat. They were a message. Charles wasn't bluffing. He was watching us, listening, breathing down our necks. And the note, it was more than intimidation. It was a declaration of war. He wasn't going to let her go quietly. He wasn't going to let me walk away unscathed. This wasn't about pride anymore. It was about punishment. Our lawyer Stephen called later that day, said he'd received an anonymous email containing the same photos, along with a warning if he didn't drop our case, his firm would be exposed for a few questionable dealings in his past. I've handled scumbags before, he told me. But this guy, he plays a different game. He doesn't just attack you, he destroys everything you've ever touched. Still, Stephen didn't back down. You've got to hit him first, he said. Hard. Publicly. We take this to the press. Leak everything. His offshore accounts. The bribes. The shell companies. All of it. He can't silence the world. But Lauren froze. No, she said, her voice low and sharp. You don't understand. If we go public now without a full plan, he'll flip the narrative. Paint me as a gold-digging adulteress. He has connections in media. He'll twist the story and I'll be the villain. You'll be the homewrecker. And he'll come out looking like the victim. She was right. Charles didn't just control money, he controlled perception. His public image was crafted like a brand. Family man. Philanthropist. Visionary. We needed more than evidence. We needed timing. We needed a bomb. That's when Lauren remembered the safe. A high-tech biometric thing in Charles's private office. She'd never been allowed near it. But once a year ago, during a party, she'd seen the code typed in by accident, a string of numbers that meant nothing to her at the time. But now it might be everything. We devised a plan. One night, while Charles was scheduled to be at a fundraiser, she would go back, enter the safe, get whatever she could, hard drives, documents, anything. I hated it. Every part of me screamed not to let her go back in that house. But she insisted. He won't expect it, she said. Not from me. Not now. The night came. She wore black. No makeup. Hair tied back. She kissed me once, hard and slow. If something happens, she whispered, don't come looking for me. Just run. I watched her drive away, my chest hollow. Hours passed. No call. No text. Then finally, my phone lit up. It wasn't Lauren. It was a video. Just a few seconds long. A shot of Lauren. Tied to a chair. Gagged. A man's voice, not Charles's, but someone working for him. Next time you send her into the lion's den, maybe think twice. You want her back? Meet us alone. Tomorrow. Midnight. The dockyard. No cops. No Stephen. No backup. Just me. I didn't sleep that night. I just sat in the dark, phone in my hand, replaying that video over and over until the image of her face, bruised, terrified, helpless, burned into the back of my eyes. I felt sick. Angry. Powerless. I wanted to scream, to tear something apart, to storm into that dockyard with every weapon I could find. But I knew that's exactly what they wanted: emotion, recklessness, vulnerability. They didn't just want to punish us, they wanted to humiliate us, make us crawl. I thought about calling Stephen, about trying to set up a trap or find some way out, but I didn't. I couldn't risk her life. Not for strategy. Not for pride. I had to go. Alone. The next 24 hours moved like molasses. Every minute dragged. Every sound outside made me flinch. I didn't eat. Couldn't. I just sat there, planning what little I could. I took the money I had stashed in the back of my closet, a couple $1,000s saved for a better future, now probably the only thing I had of value. I stuffed it in my coat, along with a burner phone and a wrench from the garage, the only thing that felt like a weapon in my world. I didn't know what they wanted. Maybe leverage. Maybe to buy us off. Or maybe they just wanted to make an example out of me. I was prepared for all of it. When midnight came, I drove in silence. No music. No thoughts. Just white-knuckled hands on the steering wheel and the distant hum of the city fading behind me. The dockyard was exactly what you'd expect, silent, eerie, empty except for the occasional creak of old metal and the splash of water against the shore. The kind of place where bad things happened and no one asked questions. I parked and stepped out into the cold. Wind off the water cut through my jacket. I walked slowly toward the spot they mentioned, a rusted-out warehouse near the far edge of the yard. Every step felt heavier than the last. I couldn't see anyone, but I knew they were watching. Then I heard it. Jake. Her voice. Faint. But real. I turned toward the sound, and there she was. Lauren. Tied to a metal chair beneath a single hanging light, her hair a mess, eyes red and swollen. A man stood behind her, tall, built like a linebacker, face expressionless. There were two others nearby, both dressed in black, arms crossed, watching me like hawks. Let her go, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. The man behind her, I never got his name, smiled slightly. Not yet. First, we talk. I'm listening. He walked around her, slow and deliberate. Charles sends his regards. He wants you to understand this isn't about jealousy. It's about principle. He built something. A life, a brand, a reputation. You tried to take that from him. And now we take something from you. I clenched my fists. You've made your point. He shook his head. Not yet. Then he pulled out a folder and tossed it at my feet. I opened it. Photos. Dozens of them. Me and Lauren. Surveillance reports. Bank records. Even my employee file from the garage. Every detail of my life laid bare. You're going to disappear, he said. Tonight. You'll walk away from her. From this city. From everything. If you don't or if you ever contact her again, this goes to the police. And the press. We'll paint you as a stalker. A predator. She'll deny everything. You'll lose your job. Your home. Your name. I looked at Lauren. Her eyes were begging me. But for what, to fight or to run, I couldn't tell. Then he leaned in close. You love her? He asked. Yes. Then prove it. Leave her. And in that moment I realized something terrible. They weren't trying to kill me. They were trying to kill what was left of me. I stood there, staring at the folder, the wind slicing through the air like knives. My heart was pounding, my brain racing, but everything felt distant, like I was watching it all from outside my own body. That man's words echoed in my skull, then prove it. Leave her. As if walking away from the only real thing I'd ever had could somehow be an act of love. But the sick part? I understood what he meant. If I stayed, they'd crush me. Not just me, her too. They'd smear her name, shred whatever dignity she had left, and make our story disappear under a mountain of lies. And if I left, she might survive. Alone, broken, but untouched by the smear campaign they'd unleash on us both. I looked at her one more time. Lauren. Her eyes were pleading. Not for help. Not for rescue. For mercy. She didn't want me to fight them. Not anymore. She knew what it would cost. Knew that if I swung first, they'd burn us both to the ground. And in that moment I realized she wasn't just scared. She was ready to be sacrificed. I turned to the man. Untie her. Now. He raised an eyebrow. Not until you agree. I'm done. You win. I'll leave. I'll disappear. Just let her go. Silence. Tense. I thought they'd laugh. Maybe hit me. But instead he nodded. Snapped his fingers. One of the other men stepped forward, pulled out a knife, and cut the ropes binding her to the chair. Lauren sagged forward, her body shaking, barely able to move. I stepped toward her, but the man held out a hand. No goodbyes. That nearly broke me. She looked up, tears spilling down her cheeks, her mouth opening to say something, maybe everything. But I shook my head. Just once. Sharp. Final. And then I walked away. Each step felt like knives driving into my spine. My body screamed to turn around, to fight, to grab her and run. But I didn't. I walked until I reached my car. Got in. Drove. I didn't even know where. Just away. Into the black, empty night. For the next few days I vanished. Slept in the back seat. Drove state to state. Threw away my SIM card. Paid in cash. I became a ghost. And every mile I put between us felt like another piece of me falling off. But I did it. Because I thought it was the only way to save her. To give her a shot at a life without fear, without threats, without me dragging her down into Charles Whitmore's crosshairs. Then, one morning, somewhere in New Mexico, I stopped at a roadside diner. Ordered coffee. Flipped open a newspaper someone left behind. And there she was. Lauren. Front page. Heiress files for divorce from real estate mogul Charles Whitmore, claims years of abuse, coercion, and financial manipulation. I couldn't breathe. I read the article 3 times. She'd gone public. Alone. Bravely. With every receipt we'd gathered, every file we'd risked everything to obtain. She had leaked it all. On her terms. She hadn't just survived. She had chosen to fight. And she had done it without me. I read every word of that article like it was scripture. My hands were shaking, my coffee untouched, my heart lodged somewhere between pride and heartbreak. Lauren hadn't just left Charles, she'd exposed him. Publicly. Brutally. She named names, dates, accounts. She backed everything up with documents, emails, photos. She painted a picture not of a bitter wife seeking revenge, but of a woman reclaiming her life after years of gilded imprisonment. The world responded. News outlets picked up the story within hours. Social media exploded. Her face, once just a footnote in Charles Whitmore's curated empire, was now the face of something bigger, a woman who'd finally said enough. But what gutted me most wasn't just her courage. It was her silence. She never mentioned me. Not once. Not in the interviews. Not in the statements. Not in the leaks. I wasn't part of the story. Not even in the shadows. At first, that hurt. God, it hurt. Like I'd been erased. Like everything we'd gone through, everything we'd risked, had vanished with a single press release. But the more I thought about it, the more I understood. This wasn't about me. This was her war. Her victory. And keeping my name out of it was the final act of protection, not just for me, but for herself. If she'd mentioned me, they would have said she did it all for a lover. They would have discredited her, painted her as weak, as led astray. But she stood alone. Proud. Unflinching. And in doing so, she won. Charles went quiet. There were rumors of settlements, investigations, offshore accounts being frozen. His empire didn't crumble overnight, but the cracks were visible now. His face disappeared from magazine covers. Invitations stopped coming. And in time, his silence became his confession. I stayed gone. Changed my name. Picked up work in a dusty town in Arizona, fixing trucks and sleeping in a borrowed trailer. I kept my head down. I didn't reach out. Not even when every part of me ached to hear her voice again. Because I knew that if she had wanted me back in her life, she would have found me. She was resourceful, relentless. If she hadn't looked for me, it meant she was choosing peace. A new start. Without the weight of us. Months passed. The story faded from headlines. The world moved on as it always does. But I didn't. Not really. One night, I came home from a long shift, wiped the grease from my hands, and found a letter tucked under my trailer door. No name. Just an address scrawled on the front. My address. Inside, a single photo. It was Lauren. Smiling. No makeup. Hair pulled back. Sitting on a porch somewhere warm, wrapped in sunlight. On the back, a note in her handwriting. I remember everything. And I'm okay now. I hope you were too. No signature. No return address. Just that. I held that photo for hours. And cried like I hadn't since I was a boy. I still have that photo. It's creased now, the corners worn from how many times I've taken it out, traced her face with my thumb, and wondered where she is. Who she's become. Whether she's found peace or maybe even love again, the real kind this time, not the counterfeit affection wrapped in diamonds and control. There are nights I still dream of her. Sometimes she's laughing, barefoot in my tiny kitchen, stealing sips from my coffee. Other times it's darker, the chair, the ropes, her eyes pleading, and I wake up gasping, drenched in sweat, clutching the image of her to my chest like it's the only proof she was ever real. People say time heals. That's a lie. Time doesn't heal. It buries. It dulls the edges, sure, makes the screaming in your head a little quieter, but it never truly erases the things that mattered. The things that broke you and remade you in ways you never asked for. I walk different now. I look over my shoulder more. I trust less. But I also love deeper. I know what it means to risk everything for someone. To give up your name, your future, your pride, just to keep them breathing. And I know what it means to lose. Not because they betrayed you, but because the world demanded it. People in this town think I'm just some quiet guy who keeps to himself, who works with his hands and doesn't say much. They don't know the truth. They don't know that once, in another life, I loved a woman who was trapped in a mansion with marble floors and no windows. That I held her through the worst nights of her life. That I watched her walk into hell and come out the other side not because I saved her, but because she saved herself. She was never mine to keep. Just mine to witness. Sometimes I wonder what might have happened if we'd met under different stars. If she'd been a girl in a diner and I'd been a guy with more than just dirt under his nails. If we'd built a life together from the ground up instead of trying to dig one out of the ruins of hers. But those are just dreams. What we had, it was real. Messy, dangerous, temporary. But real. And that's more than most people ever get. So now I live my life one quiet day at a time. Fixing engines. Watching sunsets. Carrying the ghost of her in the back pocket of my heart. And when I close my eyes, sometimes I still see her in that last photo. Free. Glowing. Alive. And that's enough. It has to be. Because some stories don't end with reunions or redemption. Some end with the strength it takes to let go. And the quiet, aching beauty of knowing you once loved, truly, deeply, even if the world didn't let it last.